Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my Week 5 waiver wire targets for the 2020 fantasy football season. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about waiver wire targets at the running back, wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback positions, giving you guys my perspective as to which breakout performances this past week in Week 4 have given me enough confidence to, for sure, be not only picking these players up off the waivers, but potentially getting players that are immediately going to help your lineups as bye weeks begin. Starting in Week 5, the bye weeks for the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions begin. I know many of us had to deal with the entire situation of the Tennessee Titans and Steelers missing last week, but from here on out, we are getting guaranteed bye weeks, so we need to make sure that our benches are solid enough and we have enough depth going forward to make sure that our lineups can win regardless of who's out on a given week. Now, also, besides the breakout performances of Week 4 deeming players more valuable, the injuries that have taken place are going to increase the value of potential wide receivers and or running back handcuffs that going forward are going to be potential starters for the next couple weeks to a month. So we'll talk about those players, which players definitely need to be looked at and picked up going into Week 5. Before we begin, I want to thank you guys for the incredible support. We just recently hit 28,000 subscribers. I cannot thank you guys enough. Make sure you click that subscribe button, join the community. We're on our road to 30K subscribers. That'd be an incredible, feat or accomplishment for this channel. So I really do appreciate it. Again, we're making fantasy football content on the daily here. So if you're interested, make sure you hop on by. Tomorrow we'll be doing running back rankings. We'll also have a video that's been widely requested down in the comment section. A lot of you have been asking for me to make a trade targets video. Players that I want to sell high on and buy low on. Players that aren't worth keeping on roster. Who do you want to cut, Andrew? Who needs to or deserves to be cut after we've pretty much seen a quarter of the season go by? 4 weeks have pretty much been established. I'll go ahead and drop that video tomorrow, give you guys a little perspective on who I'm going after via trade targets this week. Anyway, without further ado, thank you again for watching, taking the time out of your day to watch my content. You can be doing anything else at this moment in time, but again, I really do appreciate you guys supporting the channel and continuing to fight on. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start talking about my Week 5 running back targets in specific. The number one running back waiver wire target is the guy that's in the middle of the thumbnail. Shouldn't be a surprise. It's Joshua Kelley of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, yesterday, something very unfortunate happened, something very close to me. Austin Eckler, unfortunately, was injured. As of yesterday, he couldn't walk on his leg. And from what we were kind of getting news, the tidbits prior to the MRI, it was going to be a significant hamstring strain. Now, the exact information that was released earlier today was that it's a grade 2 hamstring strain with a hyperextended knee. He is likely going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. With this injury, he will probably be placed on the IR. Now, what exactly does this do? This grants Joshua Kelley, who as of right now has been the RB2 of this Los Angeles Chargers team, it grants him the opportunity to be the starting running back of this team. And the fact of the matter is, after looking at the upcoming games in the Los Angeles Chargers schedule, it really is going to give Joshua Kelley the best possible opportunity to take this RB1 role and potentially run away with it. Now, I understand that yesterday he fumbled, and that's 2 weeks in a row where he's dropped the ball and lost it. But yesterday's fumble, if you go back and watch it again, he was hit at the point of attack prior to the handoff even occurring. Even when the handoff was given to him, it wasn't even a clean exchange. So again, I'm going to go ahead and just wipe that off. I think they as a team obviously hurt heavily because of that entire turnover in that situation and how it shifts the tides of that game. But I think this upcoming week and going forward for potentially the next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even more, Josh Kelley's going to be the starting running back of this team. We've seen him get work in the passing game, and he's got incredible value going forward as a starting running back of this team. We move on to our next option. We have Chase Edmonds, running back of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, yesterday, Kenyon Drake left the game with an injury. A lot of people were concerned. Here it is. This is a time that Kenyon Drake's going to be gone. I've been holding Chase Edmonds for quite some time now. He is going to have value. Now that we've kind of gone through, the report that came out was that Kenyon Drake only just had the wind knocked out of him. He's not significantly injured. In fact, he was working out earlier this morning. So he's not 100% injured and missing this upcoming week's game. But I do believe Kenyon Drake is eventually going to lose this job. The fact that Kenyon Drake can face against the Carolina Panthers defense, a defense that is horrible against the run, and he cannot produce more than 13 carries, 35 yards. That is it's an objective fail in my opinion. Like, I can't even put into words how disappointed I am with Kenyon Drake this year. For fantasy owners who went and grabbed him, I'm sure you are pissed off beyond belief, but let me just tell you this. it probably either gets better or is going to stay the same. And to be honest, I'm thinking it's probably going to stay the same. Therefore, I'm suggesting Chase Edmonds because, again, Chase Edmonds has been the only receiving option out of this backfield. Kenny Drake has gotten no work, in which we thought he would potentially be the David Johnson of this offense. He's gotten no work out of the passing game. Chase Edmonds has scored way more touchdowns than he has because Kenny Drake hasn't scored any touchdowns. So as of right now, going forward, I think Chase Edmonds is eventually going to win this job, or potentially we see Kenny Drake actually get injured as the weeks go on because, again, they're running him into the ground and he hasn't been performing well enough to deem himself a starter for this team. So we throw out Chase Edmonds as an option because, again, they play against the New York Jets this upcoming week. That's a stout run stopping defense. So if they can stop Kenny Drake again, here comes Chase Edmonds to potentially relieve him and take that job. We move on to our number 3 option, D'Ernest Johnson. Now, Nick Chubb was injured yesterday. As of the information that was released earlier today, he is being sent to the injured reserve, the 3-week injured reserve with an MCL sprain. It is the exact same injury as to what Raheem Mostert sustained a couple weeks back. Raheem Mostert wasn't put on the injured reserve because he was only going to be out for 2 weeks rather than 3 weeks because Raheem Mostert should be returning this upcoming week, while Nick Chubb will miss at least the next 3 weeks with this injury. D'Ernest Johnson, when he came into the game yesterday, obviously was backing up Kareem Hunt, who is going to be the starting running back going forward, but D'Ernest Johnson had 13 carries for 95 total rushing yards. The entire Cleveland Browns offense ran for over 300 rushing yards, including, D'Ernest Johnson, Kenny Drake, a little bit of Dontrell Hilliard, and of course, Odell Beckham's incredible runs. But as of right now, in an offense that wants to run the ball as heavily as they, have, and they've been averaging, pretty good yards per carry behind this incredible offensive line, Kevin Stefanski utilizing this running attack that he brought over from the Minnesota Vikings, it's all looking good. And I think if, in fact, you're a Chubb owner and you're going to miss that value, D'Ernest Johnson is going to be the way to recoup those losses. I don't think it's going to be, D'Ernest Johnson scoring 2 touchdowns a week. That's not going to be the case, but he is going to be picking up, at least 10 plus carries, which you're not going to really find on the waiver wire, elsewhere, unless you're trying to go get, Frank Gore, Adrian Peterson, who are being featured backs in their respective offenses. I think D'Ernest Johnson is a pretty good way of picking up some of the pieces that you lost while Nick Chubb will be on IR. We go ahead and move on to our next running back option. We have ourselves Latavius Murray at number 4. Now, I'm bringing up Latavius Murray's name because when I was looking at his pop-off game yesterday, yes, I did start him in one of my leagues yesterday, and I'm surprised I even got away with that because it was a mistake. So I somehow left him in my flex position regardless. Latavius Murray yesterday had himself a 20-point game, had more points than Alvin Kamara. Now, as of right now in Yahoo leagues, Latavius Murray is only owned in 60% of leagues. That in itself is surprising to me because of the fact that he is the number 1 handcuff to Alvin Kamara. If Alvin Kamara is going to go down, Latavius Murray is a 20-point running back every single week. In fact, with the entire COVID situation and Alvin Kamara on Saturday night, early Sunday morning, Latavius Murray was going to be ranked within the top 5 for me personally if Alvin Kamara was going to miss. He still ended up there with Alvin Kamara playing. In the last 4 weeks, Latavius Murray has surpassed 13 touches in 3 out of the 4 games. So again, he's getting utilized more and more in this offense. And as we progress, he's averaging 4.18 yards per carry. He could get more and more touches just to relieve a little bit of the Alvin Kamara pressure because, again, if Alvin Kamara is going to catch the ball 13 times a game, run that many routes, he's going to need a little bit of relief in the running game. So they're just going to continue to utilize Latavius Murray there. Just wanted to throw him out as an option because I know if he's still available in 40% of leagues, there's some of you out there that need to be picking him up, not only as a handcuff, but potentially as a player that if he's going to get these many touches going forward and get that goal line opportunity, could be a great value going forward. We move on to Justin Jackson as my number 5. Again, with Austin Eckler being out 4 to 6 weeks, there are multiple running backs that you could potentially invest in this Chargers backfield. Justin Jackson just came back from his quad injury last week. He himself didn't look great in terms of statistics. Yard per carry average, that's not what I'm really caring about because, again, they did play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Going forward, the Los Angeles Chargers have some pretty advantageous matchups, but as well, Justin Herbert looked really good yesterday. That offense is starting to click, and that was even without their right tackle and their right guard. Brian Bulaga and Try Turner, their right guard and right tackle, both were out yesterday. So again, they were beat up in the offensive line. They obviously didn't have much of a running game yesterday. So going forward, I think these guys who are both capable receiving backs as well as guys that can run in between the tackles, they're going to be asked upon to potentially split snaps. But I think Kelley takes the lead, and if something happens to Kelley, Justin Jackson is the guy that you're going to potentially want going forward. All right, our last option here at the running back position that I wanted to mention is Damien Harris. Now, Damien Harris has not played today. I'm recording this video as of Monday in the afternoon, prior to the Monday Night Football games between the Green Bay Packers and the Atlanta Falcons, and of course the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Patriots. Now, Damien Harris will probably come off and be cleared to practice next week. Damien Harris, prior to training camp, the regular season, during training camp, had a lot of momentum. Prior to his finger injury that sent him to the IR, he was pretty much slated to be a guy that was going to get in the mix and potentially be the starting running back of this team going forward. Obviously, this is a former Alabama running back that started ahead of Josh Jacobs there. So he has a lot of talent. Hopefully, Bill Belichick will try to utilize him as the weeks progress. But again, there are a lot of running backs and there's a lot of cooks in this kitchen when it comes to the New England Patriots offense. But with Cam Newton out for at least 3 weeks with the COVID-19 situation, Damien Harris could be asked to do more, as this running attack is going to be leaned upon. As you know, if they're going to have to deal with Brian Hoyer at quarterback, I mean, come on. They're going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to be pretty effective on the ground, whether it's their offensive line or specifically their running backs. If Sony Michel's not cutting it, Damien Harris is going to be given that job. So just keep an eye on him as a potential option as the weeks progress. We go ahead and move on. We'll talk about the wide receiver position right now. So starting off with my number one, we have ourselves Justin Jefferson. This is the second week in a row where Justin Jefferson is one of the top slated wide receivers to pick up. Again, Justin Jefferson in the past 2 weeks has had 2 performances of over 100 receiving yards. That's back-to-back games, incredible performances. Sure, we would have loved to see a little bit more targets this past week, only 5 targets leading to 4 receptions, but 103 receiving yards. That is all I really wanted to see. I'm 100% satisfied with that performance. This upcoming week, they take on Seattle secondary. Great matchup. If you have not yet already picked him up, then I don't even know what you're doing, because you should have picked him up last week. But if you have him on your lineup, this is a guy that is probably going to be 100% start going forward, especially in the advantageous matchups of playing Seattle and Atlanta in the next 2 weeks. Again, Justin Jefferson looking like a pretty good play, especially with Adam Thielen getting a little bit of a resurgence yesterday. That running attack for the Vikings playing as well as they have, Justin Jefferson is just going to continue to be a great option. We move on to T. Higgins as our number 2. Again, we mentioned T. Higgins last week, but in the past 3 weeks, T. Higgins has had 22 total targets. That is incredible. On top of the fact that A.J. Green got injured in yesterday's game and only had 1 catch, as of right now, it looks to me like T. Higgins is the number 2 receiving option besides Tyler Boyd in this offense. Yesterday, had 7 targets for 4 receptions and 77 yards. As the weeks progress, this team's schedule is going to get easier and easier. In the back end of the season, from weeks 11 through 14-ish, they have an incredibly easy slate of games. And as T. Higgins continues to, at least gather experience, gain more of a, relationship and a rhythm with Joe Burrow, this offense is going to continue to click. It was a good thing to, kind of see them have a pretty explosive win yesterday. Of course, Joe Mixon popping off. But T. Higgins is definitely going to be a big part of this offense going forward. He's my number 2 option going into week 5. All right, we move on to Brandon Aiyuk, another one of these rookie wide receivers. Again, these guys are pretty much taking the scene and running with it. As of right now, Brandon Aiyuk is probably not going to be the number 1 receiving option for this offense, and he probably won't even be the number 3, to be honest. I mean, the way that this offense is built, George Kittle is the number 1 receiving option. Deebo Samuel coming back last week, catching all 3 of his targets, that's going to lead to more success. So after, Deebo and, of course, George Kittle, we'll have to look at either Jerick McKinnon being the number 3 receiving option or potentially a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. Now, yesterday, he didn't have an incredible performance. He had 5 targets leading to 2 receptions and 18 receiving yards. The week prior had himself, 5 grabs for 70 or 80-something yards. He had a pretty good game the week prior in week 3. But again, in both weeks, 2 weeks in a row, he has scored rushing touchdowns on these end-around jet sweep plays that they're continuing to scheme up for him, which are great. When Jimmy G returns this week against Miami, I think this is going to continue to lean itself in the correct direction. If Brandon Ayuk's the number 2, it's actually not a bad thing, as he'll probably have lesser cornerbacks covering him. And if he builds a continued relationship with Jimmy Garoppolo, could find himself having a lot of value going forward. We go to move on from Brandon Aiyuk, and we talk about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Now, couldn't fit his full name, but it's okay. Valdes-Scantling plays later tonight. Again, as of what I've heard, Devontae Adams is not playing today. If you are a Devontae Adams owner, you need to pivot. Hopefully, there are pieces that you have kind of put in place on your bench in terms of wide receivers on either the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Packers, or the Falcons that you can rotate to. Outside of that, Valdes-Scantling will probably play pretty well tonight against a secondary that's pretty beat up. Now, the reason I'm mentioning Valdes-Scantling even prior to the game taking place, I don't know if he's going to perform well, but I know for a fact that he's going to be at least the number 2 receiving option for this offense for the next 4 months, for the next 4 weeks, with Allen Lazard having that core muscle surgery. As of this season, only 3 wide receivers have caught the ball for the Packers. Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. No other wide receivers caught a ball. Tight ends, running backs, they've caught the ball. But no other wide receivers have caught the ball besides those 3. If Valdes-Scantling is going to be the number 1 for at least this week, and then especially as the weeks progress, the number 2, that's a lot of value. They go on bye week in week 5. I think people are going to potentially drop him. If that does happen, I don't mind picking him up, storing him, and stashing him for the weeks to come. We move on to number 5, Russell Gage, another one of these players that is going to be playing tonight on Monday Night Football. Russell Gage did have a concussion in week 3. I want everybody to understand that that was the actual reason why he did not perform well. Getting 3 targets and 2 receptions is not what Russell Gage is going to be about this year. Week 1 and 2 had himself a total of 21 targets combined. So again, tonight hopefully will end up kind of producing exactly what he's made of. I'm not 100% certain if Julio is going to play, but I'm expecting him to. So with this offense at its full potential, we're going to continue to see Russell Gage be utilized a lot. I can guarantee it. And he's a guy that's only owned, I think, 50% of Yahoo leagues. That is not enough. He's got to be owned in more leagues. He's got a lot of potential as this Falcons slot receiver and great matchups coming forward. We move on to Tre'Quan Smith as the number 6. Now, Tre'Quan Smith is going to have value for at least the next 2 weeks. At least the next week, excuse me. This upcoming week, the New Orleans Saints will probably not have Michael Thomas return. The reasoning why is because Michael Thomas still dealing with that high ankle sprain. I know was limited last week, but do you really want to bring Michael Thomas back in week 5 when week 6 is your bye week and you can get him fully healthy with no ifs, ands, or buts in week 7? Considering the New Orleans Saints have, a pretty even record right now, 2-2, they're not in too much trouble. I think as of right now, what you could potentially see happening is Michael Thomas missing week 5, having a bye in week 6, coming back week 7. So that gives Tre'Quan Smith another week of opportunity. Besides the incredible performance he had yesterday against the Detroit Lions, what was that? 4 targets, 4 receptions, 54 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think he can continue to build on that as he has over the weeks and potentially have himself another good game here. He is my number 6 potential option. We move on to number 7, Scotty Miller. So with Chris Godwin down, Scotty Miller showed up, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 83 yards, and a touchdown. Beautiful. We love to see it. Now, Mike Davis is also dealing with an injury. O.J. Howard just went out with a torn Achilles, out for the season. This offense is hemorrhaging in terms of injuries and potential receiving options that they can go to. They play on a short week. They play on Thursday. I'm not 100% certain if we're going to see Leonard Fournette return. I'm not 100% certain if LaShawn McCoy is going to return or even Mike Evans this week. So Scotty Miller is going to be asked to do a lot, as he has. They play against the Chicago Bears. Again, it's a tough defense, but if Scotty Miller is going to be the number 1 receiving option, his team potentially this week, he's got incredible value. But again, once, in fact, Chris Godwin returns, Mike Evans returns, Scotty Miller could still be a part of this offense. So we'll keep an eye on that going forward. But again, they play on Thursday night. Not a bad option for Scotty Miller. Laviska Shenault. As of right now, he's right now looking like the number 2 receiving option of the Jaguars. Chark having himself an incredible performance yesterday was very promising because many of us were really worried about the potential of him not really picking it up. But like I mentioned, they looked like they missed an offensive piece and they were really in trouble without Chark on that Thursday Night Football game against Miami. Chark came back, put himself together, a pretty good performance. Laviska Shenault, another one of these great performances, getting about 6 targets per game this past week. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 86 receiving yards, has been getting a couple rushing attempts every game. He's pretty much the Swiss Army knife of this offense and is being used as such. So going forward, could have himself some value. Again, he's proven it thus far, so I name him as my number 8. Tim Patrick's my number 9. Tim Patrick has scored back-to-back touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. This upcoming week, they take on the New England Patriots. I don't even know who's going to be the starting quarterback of the team, but Tim Patrick had himself 7 targets, 6 grabs, 113 receiving yards, and a touchdown this past week. Just wanted to throw his name out there. Jerry Jeudy probably should be owned in your leagues. Tim Patrick, another one of these options. Noah Fant's probably going to be missing. So again, they're going to have to rely upon Melvin Gordon, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick as the 3 offensive pieces for this team going forward if, in fact, Noah Fant's going to miss more time than expected. So these are the wide receiver targets for Week 5. We move on to the tight end position. So my number 1 tight end option is someone that we've named over the last 3 weeks and is still yet to be picked up in majority of leagues, Dalton Schultz. He is the starting tight end of the Dallas Cowboys as of Week 1. Blake Jarwin tore his ACL. Dalton Schultz was given the opportunity. Now, after Week 1, Dalton Schultz has pretty much turned into a different tight end, a different level of tight end. In the past 3 weeks, he's had a total of 24 total targets, 8 targets per game. This past week, 8 targets leading to 4 receptions, 72 receiving yards, and a touchdown. This offense is not performing well in the first half. The Dallas Cowboys are in the bottom half of the league in terms of first half production in yards, touchdowns. They're turning over the ball far too much. I think it was 6 turnovers in the first half alone this season for the Dallas Cowboys. They are being forced to come back in games. And if Dalton Schultz is being utilized as much as he has, 8 targets per game each of the last 3 weeks, he's going to see more value. He's my number 1 tight end option of the week. We move on to Mo Alie-Cox. A lot of you talked about Mo Alie-Cox this last week, potentially being a top 12 tight end option. My issue with Mo Alie-Cox as a top 12 tight end option is the fact that I don't trust Phillip Rivers very much. Now, Mo has scored a touchdown each of the last 2 weeks. That's beautiful. The week prior to that had 5 receptions for over 100 receiving yards against the Vikings. Has proven himself to at least be in the conversation of starting every single week, potentially on a roster in your league. Now, if that's your league, that's perfectly fine. If you're struggling to find a tight end, Mo Alie-Cox is a guy that you could potentially pick up. But as the weeks progress, again, I'm not 100% certain with his potential opportunity that we can rely upon the touchdown upside. I can't trust, Rivers. I can't trust any of the receiving options for this team. I guess Mo Alie-Cox is the only one that I'm kind of relying upon in any sort of capacity. Yesterday, had himself only 2 targets, 1 reception for 13 yards and a touchdown. So he only caught 1 pass and it was a touchdown. Pretty much had the Hawkinson scoreline yesterday. So again, very sketchy, but he has himself some upside. The next option, Eric Ebron. Now, I expect Eric Ebron to get back to form and potentially continue to have himself great performances. Now, I expected him to play well against Tennessee. The game got canceled, postponed, quote unquote. Here's the thing. The last time we saw Eric Ebron, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. This upcoming week, they take on the Philadelphia Eagles. We just saw what Kittle did to them. 15 receptions, 185 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Let's put into effect that, or put it out in the universe that the Philadelphia Eagles have had 5 touchdowns thrown on them that have been completed to tight ends. So again, they've been giving up touchdowns to tight ends. That is nothing of a surprise. Ben Roethlisberger needs another receiving option to kind of show themselves outside of Juju or Deontay Johnson. Eric Ebron seems to be the guy that's kind of stepping into that situation. This upcoming week, another one of these good pickups for the tight end position. Rob Gronkowski is my number 4. Again, like I mentioned earlier, O.J. Howard, torn Achilles, out for the season. Cameron Brate is still within this offense, but as it currently stands, Rob Gronkowski is seeing more total, targets, snap counts, and obviously has that relationship with Tom Brady. On a short week against the Chicago Bears, I don't think it's a bad option to potentially pick up Gronk. I think Gronk is more of a pick up and leave him on your bench, see how the weeks progress. But if you're going to play him in any week, if Mike Evans is out this week, there's going to be no one else to throw the ball to besides Scotty Miller, Ronald Jones, Justin Watson, and Gronk. So again, another one of these options on a short week could end up filling in and performing well. Jimmy Graham's my number 5. Again, Jimmy Graham didn't have a terrible stat line. 5 total targets, 4 receptions, 33 yards. Of course, this team could not get down to the red zone for a majority of the game. They really didn't have anything until that late game push. And to be honest, that's a lot of kudos to the Indianapolis defense and secondary, playing very tough the entire game, really not giving up anything, whether it's through the air or on the ground, putting a lot of pressure on Nick Foles. So as of right now, I think Jimmy Graham definitely was in a tough situation. Playing against Tampa Bay on a short week is probably going to continue to get these kind of targets and find himself in some pretty good situations as the weeks progress with Nick Foles at quarterback. The last option is Drew Sample. Drew Sample had 2 red zone targets that I specifically remember seeing that could have easily been touchdowns. The ball was there, it was delivered on target, just wasn't able to make the play. He had 5 targets yesterday for 3 receptions and 47 yards. If he turns one of those receptions into a touchdown, we're talking about him as potentially the number 2 receiver or tight end option, because again, outside of him, Tyler Boyd, And T. Higgins, nobody else is really being used as receiving options on a consistent enough level. So again, Drew Sample, another one of these guys to keep your eye out on at the tight end position. We move on to the quarterback position. And our top 6 quarterbacks, starting off with Joe Burrow. Speaking of Drew Sample, Joe Burrow has been delivering the ball to these Cincinnati Bengals receivers at a pretty efficient level. In terms of fantasy, as of right now in a 4-point per passing touchdown format, prior to the Monday night games taking place, Joe Burrow is the number 10 overall fantasy quarterback. Worst case scenario, he drops down to at least number 13. He's still in the top 12 conversation of the quarterback position in fantasy right now. His upcoming schedule from weeks 11 through 14 are incredible. I'm not saying that you need to pick up Joe Burrow this week and play him against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm saying that if you already have an established quarterback, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, let's say, for example, you have Josh Allen, and any of these guys, and you are going to need help down the line, maybe you have a bye week or you just want to have insurance, weeks 11 through 14 are incredible for Joe Burrow. Not only is he going to gain the experience by the time he gets there, but by the time he gets there, he gets to play against Washington, the New York Giants, Miami, and Dallas in 4 consecutive weeks going into the fantasy playoffs. Again, Joe Burrow is another one of these quarterbacks to keep an eye on. He's the number 10 quarterback in fantasy right now as of this moment in time, and going forward could have some pretty good value. We move on to number 2, Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater had himself a fantastic game against the Cardinals yesterday. Whether it was on the ground or through the air, they ended up having themselves, a little bit better than an okay game. They shocked me, to be honest. They put together a great performance. They play against Atlanta this upcoming week. Their secondary, just beat up. They don't have their starting safeties playing. Their starting cornerbacks are out tonight. If that continues to progress, Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to take advantage of that and could be a decent streaming option for those of you who are missing Aaron Rodgers and or Matthew Stafford this upcoming week. We move on to another streaming option. Jimmy Garoppolo, coming off of the injury, could potentially be available in your league because, again, people dropped him because he's been out for the past 2 weeks. Plays against the Miami Dolphins this upcoming week. Again, with Jimmy Garoppolo back in the lineup, Raheem Mostert coming back, George Kittle back, Deebo Samuel back, Brandon Aiyuk getting more experience. You still have Jerick McKinnon, who has been playing incredible, scored a touchdown in each of the last 4 games for this offense. The offensive line with Trent Williams, this offense is continuing to produce. Obviously, they didn't play well last night. Nick Mullins was not able to deliver the ball on target for majority of those throws. CJ Beathard came in, played pretty well, got themselves in the situation to potentially win. Wasn't able to at least get it done there. But Jimmy Garoppolo coming back ends up giving this team an even better option going forward. Another one of these players that I wanted to mention is Gardner Minshew. As of right now, Gardner Minshew in a 4-point per passing touchdown format is the number 9 quarterback. He's even better than Mr. Joe Burrow as of right now in terms of fantasy points. They've been playing decent. To be honest, they're always going to be in negative game scripts. Playing against Houston this week, pretty favorable matchup in my eyes. And I think in comparison to Joe Burrow versus Baltimore, I like the idea of Gardner Minshew versus Houston. So again, another one of these guys that you could pick up and potentially play. With getting Chark back, it's definitely going to help this offense going forward. Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff plays down the teams. And I think he plays up to teams. So he'll play well against the Buffalo Bills because he needs to play well. When he plays against the New York Giants or potentially the Washington team this upcoming week, he might play down. Again, he's another one of these quarterbacks that is really wishy-washy and is hard to kind of keep an eye on and see what exactly he's going to produce. So we'll have him at 5 there. The last option is Kirk Cousins. Plays against Seattle this week. Again, with having 2 receivers at the caliber of Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson just stepping up the rushing attack, producing well. You still have Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph, who in my opinion are both underutilized. Going forward, I think Kirk Cousins against the secondary that really can't stop a soul as of this moment in time, not a bad option. Those are my Week 5 running back, wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback waiver wire targets for the 2020 fantasy football season. Again, thank you everybody for watching. Make sure you click that like button if you like today's video. Try to get us past that 1,000 like mark potentially. Outside of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, we're going to be creating fantasy football content here for the entirety of the season. If you're trying to find more content that I create outside of the channel, you can go down below in the description of the video, find my Patreon, patreon.com/Andrew Kirchhoff. All the information regarding what I offer there is on the website, so go to the link and check that out. You don't have to join, but just checking it out would be appreciated. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys are ready for the videos tomorrow. Again, make sure you tune in to the running back rankings for tomorrow and the trade targets for tomorrow. We're trying to sell high, buy low on some players, potentially set us up for some success for the future weeks. Again, thank you everybody for watching. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.